Hey, what's up YouTube? It's Mohammed from Primetime Gaming, bringing you a comparison of the Blackberry Curve 9300 and the Blackberry Curve 9360. So both of these Blackberries were released by RIM, and they were both the Curve model. The 9300 was released on October 9th in 2010, and about a year later, the 9360 was released on August 23rd, 2011. So we'll start off with a little physical comparison of both the phones. So the first thing I noticed with both of these phones is that the 9360 is much lighter and it is more sleek as compared to the 9300. Like if I hold them up right now like this, I can tell that the 9360 is slightly lighter, and that is proven as the weight of the 9300 is 104 grams, while the 9360 weighs just 99 grams. So both of them are great light phones, but the 9360 does grab an edge over the 9300 in that specification. We'll start off the comparison by looking at the appearance of both of these phones. So starting off with the front, as you can see, the first thing I noticed actually were the talk and end call buttons, in which case the 9300, the talk and end call buttons are green and red, whereas in the 9360 it's all white and black. Now in terms of the keyboard, they both use an identical type of keyboard, but another thing I noticed was that the keyboard of the 9300 was much louder than the keyboard of the 9360. I don't know if you guys can hear, and I don't know, just to me that seems a bit quieter, and that helps out in class and all when you don't want anyone else to hear you texting. I know that's a problem with the curves, but other than that, the fronts look pretty much identical except for the little outer silver part of the 9300, whereas here the black just continues all the way to the top. But pretty much other than that, they're the same except for the black outer part of the 9360. In terms of dimensions, the phones are almost identical in terms of height and width, but in terms of their thickness, the Blackberry 9360 is obviously much slimmer, as you can see, than the 9300. As you can see right here, side by side, there is quite a difference between the two. Now looking at both phones from the left side of them, you can see that they are obviously quite different. The 9300 has the headphone jack, the charger, and a convenience key, whereas the 9360 only has the charger on this side. And if we flip it over to the other side of these phones, you can see that the 9300 has the two convenience keys right here, which are harder to see, and one convenience button, whereas the 9300 has the same two volume buttons, but also has an additional convenience key. So the 9300 does have two, while the 9360 only has one. Looking at the top and bottom of this phone, as you can see, the 9300 does have three immediate keys at the top for play, next, and previous. This used to be one of the special features of the Curve, but as you see with the 9360, they've taken that out and replaced that with just a lock button. And now we're looking at the bottom, and it's pretty much actually the same. Nothing new, nothing old. And one more thing at the top, as you can see right here, the speakers of the 9300 actually are right here, whereas the speakers of the 9360 are right here at the bottom at the back. So comparing the backs, they're pretty much the same except for the fact that the Curve 9360 has a shiny black plastic cover, while the Curve has a nice groovy type of cover for its battery. And also the 9360 does have flash, whereas the 9300 does not have flash, which is also another great useful tool with the 9360, is its new addition of the flash feature. Now if we look at the internal software of both of these phones, the 9360 actually comes equipped with a 800 megahertz processor, whereas the 9300 I think has a 600 or so gigahertz processor, so that is a small bit of a difference between the 9360 and the 9300 in terms of processor speed, as well as the RAM of the 9360 is double that of the 9300. The 9360 has 512 MB, where the 9300 only has 256 MB. And in terms of internal storage, the 9360 also has 256 MB, whereas the 9360 has another 512 MB. Both of these phones support a memory card for up to 32 gig. Now, in terms of screen resolution, the 9360 does have a better screen. The camera probably doesn't do justice, but the 9360 has a screen that has a display of 480 pixels by 360. So when I compare it with the 9300, you will notice that the icons of this phone are much more, they seem a bit more sharper and clearer. Now, as you can see, the 9300 has a resolution of 320 by 420, 320 by 240 pixels, so that is quite a small bit of difference, but when you see both of these phones side by side, you can tell the difference. But the display size of both the phones is exactly the same, 2.44 inches, so you won't be losing any screen size if you choose to go with one phone over the other. In terms of their operating systems, the 9300 actually only goes up to OS 6 for the Blackberry, whereas the 9360 has OS 7 for the Blackberry, and you can't upgrade the 9300 because RIM has only made the OS 7 available for phones that are released with it, so it is not downloadable over the internet, and you cannot install it on your 9300, so that gives a slight edge to the 9360. And another thing about the processor of the 9360, you'll notice that it is a lot more smoother. If you can see here, if I'm scrolling left to right through here, you can see it's quite smoother and it looks better, whereas over here in the 9300, when I scroll to the left and right, it's mostly just a sorry about that, it's just mostly a slide from one to the other. Yeah, as you can see, that the 9360 was much more smoother, but it's probably also because of the trackpad sensitivity on both phones is different. But the 9360 definitely is much more smoother and gives you a better browsing experience because of its more internal RAM, so you can open web pages that require a little bit more memory. Now, in terms of battery, the 9360 does have a battery that's a little bit less powerful than that of the 9300. This one has a Li-ion 1150 mAh battery, whereas the 9360 has a Li-ion 1000 mAh battery, so this does give you a little bit more talk time and standby time as compared to the 9360. Now, the camera of both these two phones is significantly different. The 9360 comes with a 5 megapixel camera that shoots with a maximum resolution of 2592 by 1944, whereas the 9300 comes with a 2 megapixel camera which shoots at 1600 by 1200, which is quite a difference. And as I mentioned before, the 9360 does have the new flash feature, whereas the curved 9300 doesn't. And in terms of its internal features, again, the 9360 also comes with more options such as mobile hotspot, and near field communication. I haven't looked into both of these features, but feel free to go online and see the difference between the two. As you can see, the 9360 does not have these options. It only has mobile network, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth. So overall, to no surprise, the 9360 is a much better phone than the 9300, but on paper it's lighter and thinner than the 9300. It has a faster processor, a better camera. Its OS 7 supports hardware accelerations, faster web browsing, voice-activated universal search, and a Blackberry balance feature, whereas the OS 6 does not come with that, I'm pretty sure. The RAM also makes quite a difference between these two phones. The 9360 has double the RAM, so it'll be, I guess, double as smoother, especially when you're web browsing. So the 9360 overall is a better phone, and if you didn't notice already, the optical trackpad of the 9360 also lights up, where for the 9300 it doesn't. That's just a small side note if you guys didn't notice. So really, it's up to you. It's a personal decision. If you want to go with the latest technology, personally I would recommend the 9360. It's the best curve I think they've released so far. The 9300 isn't bad, but I would go with the 9360. Alright, so that was Mohammed from Primetime Gaming, bringing you a comparison between the 9300 and the 9360. If you have any comments or questions, please post them below the video, and if you liked the video and found it was helpful, please subscribe and share to your friends. Thanks.